green and Nelson Mandela went white. Even the kitten couldn't stand it. He tried to walk away from it, but the garlic followed him around the study like a low-lying cloud, and it took 4 high-speed laps of the room before the cloud gave up and went off to take it out on the ozone layer. He stretched out for a few moments on the window, still, and then came over and sat on Melvin Bragg. "Look, you're going to have to learn 1 or 2 ground rules. The first one is this. In the mornings I like a little time on my own with the newspaper. Got it?" He nodded, and he got it. He moved over and sat on the racing page. "I'm not at my best in the mornings. I have been known to clean my teeth with Savlon, and I've sprayed under my arms with Elnet. I wasn't up to coping with a kitten who had bad breath. I adapted with famous tablecloth techniques, where you yank the newspaper out from underneath a kitten without the aforementioned kitten knowing a damn thing about it. I yanked and he fell over, stuck his claws into the racing page and hung on. I dragged him all the way out into the hall. He thought it was a wonderful game, and he slashed out right and left at the booking newspaper. Bits were falling all over the place as he shredded it to pieces. I slipped my hand under his stomach and lifted him. I slipped my hand under his stomach and lifted him into the air for a nose-to-nose confrontation. The racing page came with him, and he hovered in mid-air like an eagle with a rabbit. "Right, that's it. I'm taking you home." "Can't you take a joke?" "I should have done it last night. I can't think what I was playing at." He began purring, and his undercarriage vibrated against my palm. "And that won't get you anywhere either." He pushed his anxious little face closer to mine as he tried to work out just where he had gone wrong. I didn't mean to grin. It sort of just escaped. It was enough. His face exploded, and he smiled a smile that came up all the way from Cheshire. My heart melted, and I leaned forward and touched his nose with mine. Then he burped a burp that came up all the way from Hades? Don't know. And the world began to spin. I think it said Hades. Aileen curled up in the armchair, a cigarette in one hand, a cup of coffee in the other, and poking his head out of her dressing gown, a small white kitten snuggled up against her naked breasts. "There's nothing more sensuous than feeling warm fur against bare flesh," she murmured, so not content with waking me halfway through the night and shredded my newspaper first thing in the morning. This kitten was now taking over my role as a sex object. "He reminds me of that cat in the Garfield cartoon. What's his name?" "Garfield," I told her. "No, not him, the kitten, the cutest kitten in the world. Normal. That's it, Normal." She bent and kissed his head, and he preened, and closing his eyes, pressed up for more attention. She kissed his nose. If he burped now, she would discover that he was also the most toxic kitten in the world. "We ought to take him home," I said. "I'll drop him off on the way out. Then I could apologise to Patrick, tell him that I had lied, and beg his forgiveness. Better still, I could tell him that I had searched high and low for this kitten, rescuing it at the last minute from the slavering jaws of a vicious Doberman. That should have him round cutting my side of the hedge on Saturday afternoon. You're too late. You've gone out. No, you're too late. They've gone out. I heard the gate click. Damn, the kitten frowned, swearing again. Don't worry, Aileen said, straightening out his ears. He'll be company for me. I'll take him around when Sarah comes home. Time was galloping on. I was due in Newcastle at 12, and I hadn't showered yet. I shall be late. I folded the newspaper as best I could and laid it in strips on the table. To his credit, the kitten looked embarrassed. Right then, I'm off upstairs. I walked slowly across the study, half hoping to hear the clatter of tiny hooves as a faithful kitten bounded after his beloved master. He slipped a couple of inches further down Aileen's cleavage, yawned, and turned over to his back. Me too, said Aileen. I must get cracking. He was up like grease lightning. He was up like grease lightning, dancing across the carpet after ever watchful of her feet, and for one brief moment I thought that he was going to open the door for her. I would have too, he would have too, had he been able to reach the handle. Oh. Back door seems to be open. He waited for her in the hall like a small policeman on point duty. Steered her efficiently round a disappointed Chinese rug and headed her off towards the staircase. Isn't he beautiful? He's all right, I agreed. He's lovely. He's not bad. He's very intelligent, you know. He sat on the bottom step and waited for a lift. As smug a kitten as ever sat on a bottom step and waited for a lift. Just said that twice, okay. It says it twice in the book, I'm not kidding. Give him a hand, he can't manage it. For one brief moment I considered giving him a foot instead, but I am basically a kind man, so I scooped him up and placed him in a lookout position on Aileen's shoulder. They took their time climbing the stairs, and I moved ahead of them and turned towards the landing. Behind me I heard Aileen break out into a Long John Silver impression whilst the kitten sat bolted to her shoulder. Sorry, I just remembered something funny. Right. Whilst the kitten was bolted to her shoulder and pretended that he knew what a parrot was. He laughed hollowly at her. Jim lads, and rather nervously... What? He laughed hollowly at her. Jim lads, and rather nervously at her. Shiver me timbers. Oh. Okay, I get it now. But he must have felt very vulnerable up there, as she affected the most outrageous limp. Perhaps it was the relief of reaching the topmost step, for it was there that the kitten burped. And oh God. Yeah. For it was there that the kitten burped, and the woman staggered, and the kitten jumped and landed on the white sheepskin rug. He knew then that his short career as a kitten was over. Sheepskin rugs are the worst, most vicious kind of rug. And he froze and awaited his fate. What the hell's he been eating? He stood Never mind. He stood stock still for some time, and then, as it began to dawn on him that this rug was probably one of the few friendly rugs in captivity, His fur relaxed, and his ears went limp, and his 2 front paws began to pound and pound and pound. What's he doing? He's pounding. The description didn't do him justice. His back was in spasm, his head was bowed. In fact, the whole of his tiny body was a monument to ecstasy. Even the rug seemed excited. What's he doing now? Still pounding. I had a shower, and Aileen had a shower, and when we came out, he was still at it. I bent to stroke him, and I could hear his motor running. "It's my mother," he purred. "It's my mother." "Thank you."